Hello everyone, welcome to Anucool's video series where we speak about convenient and comfortable clothing that supports people's specific needs. Today we have a very insightful thought and an episode. We are going to talk about senior citizens and how they are adjusting to the rapidly changing lifestyles and technology boom. And joining us today, we have Ms. Shreya, who is the director of Vedanta Senior Living Communities. She is a chartered accountant by education, and she has immense experience in running these communities across 6 cities in India. Hello Shreya, it's a great pleasure to have you with us today.
Hi Nalini, nice talking to you. Thank you for having me on this platform. And I've seen all your products and I'm extremely impressed with what Anucool is doing.
Thank you so much.
We just have a few questions to ask you about how the landscape has changed for the senior citizens and how they are coping up with these changes. So let us start off by asking a little bit about your journey. How did you start off on this line of expertise?
Okay, so senior living as a concept started for us because we had an incident in the family. One of my grandmother was going through a very serious terminal illness when we were all abroad, our family was abroad, and we didn't have anybody in India to look after her. So at some point we all relocated back to India and we had to take care of her. And then she passed away. But that's when it struck us that many families live abroad and their parents live in India. There is no ecosystem. This I'm saying way back 10 years, 11 years back. There was no ecosystem around to take care. And not only if they are sick, even otherwise, if there is an immediate emergency, if there is any requirements, small help, there is only so much that you can depend on neighbors and close family. Nothing like having a very structured system to take care, right? So that's why the concept of senior living, we thought we wanted to do this. There were few companies already in India who were doing it back then, and predominantly it was very popular in the US. So we went there, we saw how these communities were run there. So we took some inputs and that's when we started Vedanta. One objective with Vedanta was, apart from running it like a business, since we also started with a personal experience, we thought we should run it with a lot more family and personal touch.
Right.
So that's how we work with all our residents.
Awesome. So this is something we see as a recurring theme. When there is a personal incident that has triggered us into our path of breaking through from our usual barriers and starting something new, we are always able to bring a personal touch to it and we are able to resonate better with people's emotions.
Definitely.
Yeah. So just to let the viewers know, Anucool also started with something very, very similar. So a person in our family, she suffered from acute frozen shoulder for well over a year and she struggled with everyday dressing as a routine, and when we were looking out to see if there is an appropriate clothing that can be worn for her physical condition, we found that there is absolutely nothing. And that's what triggered us to do further research and launch Anucool as a brand. So I totally understand what you're saying, Shreya. Alright, so I understand that you have been running this for about 10 years. How old is Vedanta?
We've completed 10 years this year, so we are into our 11th year.
Awesome. So given that you have worked for so long and I'm sure thousands of people have benefited, can you share a couple of experiences that stay on top of your mind that is very close to your heart?
So many experiences. In fact, when I started into senior living, I was very young and I didn't understand what to expect out of this industry, and it was very new to me. Came from very little experiences, but over the last 10 years, I've met so many people, and many people have become very close to me. It's like they become a part of our family, and it's not a very easy industry. Also, working with seniors is very difficult because they are also very demanding. They demand services and they are used to a particular routine. So providing services for seniors is a very difficult task. But every time you get, kind of frustrated because they say senior living is the most stressful industry. There's a research which has said that. So every time you feel stressed about being here, then there's some incident which pops up which makes you feel it's all worth what you're doing. It could be a small health emergency which we addressed on time. Or it could be small incidents. There was one incident which happened in one of the communities. I was sitting there, and this husband and wife. This husband came down and he was like, "Where is my wife? I can't find her. We're supposed to go for a walk right now, and I'm not able to find her." So he was very angry, very agitated. He was sitting there, So we also got scared. We were asking people, and then the nurse came and said, "We're having a physiotherapy session. We're having movement exercises going on." So his wife is there. So then he said, "No, please ask her to come." So she came running back, and then he was like, "No, why are you going for your physiotherapy right now? This is our walking time. For the last 20 years, we go for walk at this time. Why are you going for exercises?" Then we had changed the timing. Earlier it used to be 5 o'clock. We had preponed it to 4 o'clock. So she was like, "No, the timings got changed. No, you can't go there." And she was like, 20 years I've listened to you, I've come with you, now I'm going to do things which I want to do with my time. So 4 o'clock I'm going to go for physiotherapy, we go for walk at 5 o'clock. So it's a very cute interaction, it was live, it is happening in front of me. So when these kind of things happen, that's when you realize, something what you're doing. Somebody is able to say that now I'm relaxing right now after so many years, I am relaxing, so this is my time. If somebody is saying that, then that's something which you can never do it.
Oh, fantastic. So what this is kind of telling me is that when people reach their twilight years, the most important thing for them is to be in control of their own time.
Yeah.
Being the master of their time seems to be very, very critical for them, right?
Very true. Then of course comes the health emergencies, and so many emergencies happen, and you've supported on a timely manner, and you feel happy that whatever little you could contribute in that. So these are things which keep making you come and do work every day morning.
But something else comes to my mind. You mentioned that running a senior citizen home is probably the most difficult one. I would someday like to talk to somebody who runs a daycare center for toddlers. I would like to see if they agree with it. Is first childhood more difficult or is the second childhood more difficult? We can have a healthy debate on that.
Probably the same. It would go on the same lines.
I'm sure. Okay, so the next thing that we are interested in understanding is how are seniors adjusting with the sudden technology boom? How is it addressing their needs for staying connected and needs for staying independent?
So you can't put all seniors into the same bucket, right? So each person reacts to technology in a different way. But having said that, today I'm talking from a senior living industry perspective. About 65 to 70% of our residents have their families living abroad, their children or whatever. So whether they like it or not, they have to adopt the technology. So they learn it because that's the only way they stay connected with their families. So those basic things they somehow learn. But when you bring in some big time technology, we tried bringing apps, we tried bringing these things. To be very honest, it wasn't very successful. And we went back into basic, we have technology platforms, but mostly from a back-end point of view, and front-end we've simplified it in a big way. We don't complicate the interaction with technology too much. But there are some people who are extremely, they are very passionate about this. They like trying out new things.
Right.
So this is not specific to an age group also. I've seen people past their 90s who are still keen to learn new tech gadgets, and people in their 60s who don't want to do anything with tech, who have given up learning new things. So both extremes are there, but bringing tech is going to be non-negotiable. More and more in this industry, when your service, efficiency of service, timeliness of service becomes more important, you have to bring in tech one way or another, and we'll have to train. And I think as generations move forward, like 10 years back, people who came in were not used to using a smartphone. The early residents of Vedanta never had a smartphone. But today people who move in all have smartphones. They've all been using smartphones. So maybe 5 years down the line, they'll become more comfortable to take.
Right. It will get more normalized as time passes by. Yeah? So another question comes to my mind. We spoke about how people want to be in control of their time, right? So in a senior citizen setup, people have ample time in their hands. They are free to do what they want. But they also struggle with the fact that there is no active schedule on a day-to-day basis. So is this a contradiction? Is this something they struggle with, or are they happy with the way they are, having the freedom to do what they want to do?
I think from my experience of meeting residents in Vedanta, I feel that they like to have their own schedule. They like to have activities. Definitely, it cannot become a boring, mundane kind of a session. But I feel seniors prefer to have their own time. Just because we have morning to evening filled with activities doesn't mean that everybody would come and participate. Again, like I said, you can't put all seniors into one bucket. Even in our age group, we find some people more social, some people preferring to stay indoors. So even in seniors, there are some people who prefer to be social, some people who prefer to follow their own schedule and timelines. So people like activities, people like to be active, but at their own time and at their own preference.
All right.
They don't like it to be thrusted upon them.
So another question is, if you think about an aspect that the seniors need, but it is currently absent, what would you say it is?
I think there are a lot of things which seniors need, because we know India is aging as a country, and there are so many reports which says that population of seniors is going to increase drastically. So what it actually means is that the requirement, it's not only that numbers are going to increase, but it also means that the needs are going to become more broad. When you have more seniors, there are going to be more requirements of seniors. It's not only today which is independent senior living. Tomorrow there will be multiple requirements, assisted living, or so many things are coming up. And one other factor, what you people are doing, clothing for seniors. That is something which nobody has, it's not very common, but it's a very pressing need which seniors do have. There's this one incident which I really want to point out here. So there was one resident who moved into our community, and she was going through a lot of depression, and she was going through a lot of transition, isolation when she moved in, because her family had just left for the US and all that. And she wouldn't come out and participate because she had to wear a sari and come out. So she was very comfortable wearing her nighties and sitting at home, rather than wearing a sari and coming out and interacting. So that's where another resident went and told, you should start wearing skirts and tops. Don't bother with this sari. So when she started getting used to it, and when she started changing her attire, she started becoming more social.
Right.
Small changes in clothing, like wearing clothes easier for seniors, will change so much of their social life.
Yeah.
Like even when we were discussing about how you had a family with frozen shoulders, so how their social interaction gets cut down simply because they were not able to wear clothing which they could use for social interaction. So very, very small solution for a very big problem. Right? So things like this, I feel people need to think what seniors want. So for so many years, the country, the government, the policies have been towards youngsters, have been towards growing employment, have been towards creating opportunities. And as the population becomes older, our policies and thought process and research and development should be on how to cater to this segment more effectively.
Absolutely.
I think that thought process has to, that is where we are lacking right now. We should see a lot more change in the future.
It's a fantastic response, right? So on multiple angles, be it in terms of life expectancy, be it in terms of availability of health care, be it in terms of availability of home care, availability of internet, availability of disposable income, these factors are vastly different for the current senior citizens in comparison to what it was a couple of decades ago. So the government, the policies, the societies have to evolve to adapt to these needs.
Very true.
All right, excellent. So as a closing remark, can you think of an advice or a thought that you have often heard from seniors that has resonated with you and that can be of a good use to a younger generation?
There's a lot of advice and thought which seniors always are waiting to share. There's no dearth for it. But one thing which people have always said is, when you are young, live your life. Live your life. Don't, I also, when I see them, when I see people when they're retired, I get a lot of, lessons as to how I should be when I retire. Because it's very difficult. Very easily you can get into, once you stop working, very easily you can get into depression. Very easily you can get into a very frustrated mode. How do you beat this and still stay, active and positive and optimistic. So when I see people who in their 90s looking very optimistic in life, then I get back into reflection, why am I brooding about something today, right? So that is my biggest learning, how I see life itself. When you see people who've lived so long and still having so much of positivity and planning for the next 20 years in their late 80s and 90s, so that gives you like so much of hope, and you feel whatever you're worrying about, stressing about right now, is a very, very small, insignificant part of life in the longer run. So that life lesson is something more than the advice that they give in words. What I see them and I learn is a much bigger thing.
All right, so that also a very valuable lesson, right? So live life to the fullest. Don't overly magnify the size of the problem, and stay courageous. That's what they seem to be telling us. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shreya. I think we have learned a lot about this up and coming concept called as assisted living, senior living. And we're also very happy to learn that our seniors are a very vibrant batch, and we still have a lot to learn from them.
Definitely, and you guys are doing a great work. And actually, we've got a very good feedback from our resident who has used Anucool product when they had an injury. And we're very happy to work with your brand across our Vedanta communities.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, viewers.